This episode contains major spoilers for the brand new Predator film Prey, just released on Hulu, and minor spoilers for the Predator franchise in general. So if you don't want any of that stuff ruined for you, maybe come back to this episode another time. But again, we go especially deep on Prey, so consider yourself spoiler warned. I can draw a line to the Alien franchise from Archie Comics that has nothing to do with the Predator, which I'm going to do now.
Okay, let's do it then.
So, in Archie Comics, the Riverdale gang met Sarah Palin and Barack Obama. Okay.
I didn't know that, but all right, cool.
Barack Obama famously was at one point saved from a Deadite infestation by Ash Williams from the Army of Darkness comics, which did in fact cross over at one point with the Vampirella comics. And of course, Vampirella did have a crossover series with the Alien universe.
Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So there's an Archie connection without Predator to the Alien. That's what I'm trying to say. It is early.
I get you.
I had a weird day.
It certainly is. It's a lot earlier than we normally record, so I hear you.
I had a weird day yesterday. My plans kind of got blown from just getting too beat up at work. So I didn't get to watch Prey until much later last night than I planned. And then I watched it again this morning. And now we are recording the podcast. I'm not all here yet. I'm not going to lie. But we got to get this out quick, right? We don't want to get scooped.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, it came out, let's see, by the time we're recording this, it came out almost a day and a half ago. So we need to turn this around and get this out as soon as we can.
Roughly 36 hours ago, I'd say, right?
Give or take, yeah.
Well, one thing I did, actually, Friday morning, I did watch about the first 10 minutes of the movie before I went to work.
Nice.
I just had to get started. I was excited. I was excited for Prey. But I guess we should introduce ourselves to our legions of new listeners who are tuning in just because we're talking about the new Predator film. I am Skinned Snake Neal.
And I am Invading White Man Kenny.
Oh, no. Are you a fur trapper? Are you a fur trapper, Kenny?
Pulling my collar and looking around. Gotta go.
And this is Crew Expendable. We are just a couple of...
come on. I know you can do it. Come on.
Something with quicksand sinking deep into the Alien and Predator franchises.
It's fine.
Something with quicksand.
I'll take it. Not our best effort, but we're trying to crank this out quick, so it's fine.
I guess I could run with you with your designation. We are just a couple of metal snares snatching at the ankles of the Alien franchise.
There we go. I like that one. That was good.
And this week, the Predator franchise. We are here to talk about 2022's Prey, the brand new Predator film that just launched 36 hours ago, give or take.
As of this recording.
As of this recording, of course. Yeah. I guess let's run through a little bit of cast and crew for Prey. The movie was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. We talked about him a little bit on our last episode about Archie versus Predator issue 2. Yeah, Dan Trachtenberg worked on The Boys, directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, is in charge of the upcoming Waterworld television show. The movie was written by Patrick Eisen. He's a producer on Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan and wrote some of that show, He was additional crew on the TV series Legion. He was a consultant for 7 episodes.
All right.
And he's executive producer for Jack Ryan and a series called Treadstone that I have never heard of before.
Same. I cannot say I've ever heard of it before, no.
Nope. The movie stars Amber Midthunder as Naru. She was one of the stars of the TV show Legion that Patrick Eisen was a consultant on. I wonder if that's how they got together for this movie.
I have to assume that's where he knew her from. Yeah.
She's a native Mexican actor. She's also she's currently on a TV series called Roswell, New Mexico. And Legion, she was in all 27 episodes of Legion. I think there's 27 of those. I never watched the show, but I might.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
not a big X-Man's guy.
I just don't really have the patience for those kind of shows. Like I heard it was coming out, and I was like, that's probably going to be cool, and I'm also probably never going to watch it. So
He's not a series boy.
yeah, not really.
Not a big series boy.
That is correct. I see what you did there.
This movie also stars Dakota Beavers as Tabe. This is his first role.
Really?
This is his only acting credit.
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that. I gotta say, man, I really liked him a lot. I thought he did a great job.
He's terrific in this. Everybody.
I love
First
him.
of all, everybody was. Let's be clear. But yeah, he was really good for this being his first role.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool. And we've got Dane DeLiegro as the Predator. He's a retired college basketball player. Pardon me.
all right.
Who plays creatures in stuff. He plays Ball in American Horror Stories. He was the alien overlord in the Doja Cat music video for Get Into It. Seems like he was a hero walker on The Walking Dead. I don't know what a hero walker is. That might be a dude's name, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't really watched it. So.
Again, you're not a big series boy.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, that's our main cast. Really, I'm not going to run through absolutely everybody here.
Yeah, there's really only like 3 or 4 people in the movie that really like matter to the movie. Really,
I guess we could talk about Bennett Taylor, who plays Raphael, one of the fur trappers. I believe the one that ends up giving her the revolver, or not the revolver, giving her the flintlock.
Yeah, he was the translator that was working with the fur trappers. Yeah.
Yes, he's had roles on iZombie, Arrow, a couple episodes of Arrow, and then I guess we can talk about Mike Patterson as Big Beard. He's another one of the fur trappers. He was in Punisher Warzone. That's really cool. Yeah, he was in Punisher Warzone. That's it for credits for the very messy intro. You know how I said this is going to be a no edit? Turns out I'm going to spend the rest of the day editing this thing and making it sound, cohesive, but let's try to keep it tight anyway. Kenny,
yo,
what did you think of Prey?
I fucking loved this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was phenomenal. It kicked ass. It ruled. Like, as I mentioned in, I believe it was the AVP issue 1 episode.
Sure.
I have seen Predator and Predators. I have not seen Predator 2 or The Predator. So I've seen movies 1, 3, and 5 in the series.
Okay.
And of the 3 that I've seen, this is easily my favorite one. I liked this one a lot more than even the first one, I thought. This is definitely my favorite one that I've seen, for sure.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I've seen all the Predator movies. We've talked about that. I consider myself a Predator fan. I'm not steeped in Predator lore the way that I am with the Alien franchise. Mm-hmm. It's not as precious to me, I guess. Maybe is the term.
I get you.
And I really like the first movie still. Like, I still love the original Predator. Predator 2 is a weird fucking movie. Predators is one that people really love that for some reason I have a hard time I've seen it 2 or 3 times. People love that movie and I liked it when I saw it, but I never think about watching it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, same. Like the first time I've only seen it the once, I believe, and like when I watched it, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a pretty cool movie." I've just never really had the desire to return to it because like now looking back at it again, I'm like, "Oh, it's basically the same as the first one. It's just not set on Earth, but they're like otherwise the same movie, so kind of why bother,
That's the big twist in that one is that, and then there's there's Predator dogs, I guess. And then I have seen The Predator, the Shane Black one that came out a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, 2018,
I believe.
So
I believe it's 2018,
a while ago at this point. That movie famously plagued with reshoots and things like that, and some other controversies that I think really harmed it. It's a weird fucking movie. First time I watched it, I was like, okay, whatever. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, damn, that was actually a lot of fun. Like, now that I know what I'm getting into, but
yeah, that was one of those movies where like I was always kind of vaguely interested in seeing it because like, I never really cared about the Predator franchise
Sure.
a whole lot, and then they made Predators in 2010, and I saw that just because I think it was like playing at a friend's house while I was over there or something.
Right.
So when the Predator was coming out, I was kind of interested in seeing like what a modern day Predator movie set on Earth would actually look like.
Uh-huh.
But then it came out and it got bad reviews, and a lot of people are said, "Oh, this movie's actually kind of really offensive." And so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother then. So I never got around to watching it.
Yeah, there's definitely some offensive stuff in it for sure. I mean, you put honestly, it's like Shane Black's still writing like it's the fucking 1980s.
I get you.
We'll save that for the Predator episode.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. We do plan on doing all of the movies. So.
Yeah, including this one again. So for this episode, I think we should just kind of give general thoughts of what we thought was cool, most of it, etc. Some things we thought didn't work. Any just general conversation about Prey, and then when we get to doing this again and as part of our Predator month, we can really kind of dive in deep, with the lore and things like that. How does that sound?
Works for me.
Yeah. Also, looking forward to being able to cover this a second time because I really did dig it.
It will give me an excuse to watch it a second time because unlike you, I only watched it the once. But even though the movie's a tight 90 minutes, no joke took me like 5 hours to get through, something like that. Because, well, first off, I paused it halfway through the movie for almost an hour to make dinner. But like even before that, like when I watch a movie for one of these,
right,
like every 90 seconds I have to pause it to take notes, so it just takes me forever to get through a movie every time we do one.
Oh boy.
So if we're going to be covering it again in more detail later on, it'll give me an excuse to be able to just sit down and watch the movie in one sitting without having to frequently take breaks. So yeah,
I wanted to watch it a third time. I just didn't have, like, my plan was honestly to try to watch it twice yesterday, and then when we moved the recording to today, I was like, oh cool, maybe I can squeeze in a third watch, and I ended up just getting the two in. But like when I did Mortal Kombat 2021 for MK PodQuest, I think I watched it 3 times before we recorded the episode, something like that, something ridiculous. Ouch. something too many times.
I have definitely too many times, because I have seen that movie 1 time and I was like, wish I hadn't even seen it the first time.
There are parts of this movie that are like better versions of stuff that was done in that movie.
I mean, that is a weird comparison because I don't really put these two movies in like the same like block, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Like I don't think of them in a way that makes them comparable to each other.
Right.
But
no, that's
the more that I'm
accurate.
thinking about it sitting here right now, yeah, I suppose there's a couple of points where I'm like, yeah, good point, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm primarily thinking about her axe, the way she uses it in some of those, like the scene where she's fighting the fur trappers. I was like,
that scene ruled.
This is better than the kunai at the beginning of Mortal Kombat 21. I'm not gonna compare. That's just the only time I'm gonna bring it up.
All right, fair enough.
It's a similar mechanism, is all I'm saying. Do we want to run through just a brief plot synopsis for the folks who haven't seen Prey yet? I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't. This is going to be full of spoilers. There's a spoiler warning at the beginning, in fact.
Sure, I got one right here, actually. I even thought ahead to write down a little vocal synopsis for it last night after I was done.
Nice. Do you want to give that to us now?
In 1719, a trained healer in the Comanche tribe longs to instead be a hunter and insists on taking her hunting initiation trial. However, the things she's tracking begin to track her back, namely the predator that's also scampering around in the woods, but also there's a cougar, a bear, and a bunch of overweight Frenchmen.
Nice. Yeah, that's it. 1719, a Predator movie set about 300 years before us right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
303,
sorry.
Yeah. So a prequel to the original Predator movie, right? First movie in the timeline, in the Predator timeline that we have seen. If you consider the Alien versus Predator movies to be part of the Predator timeline, which I understand there's a case, like you can make that case based on something you see in The Predator. There are scenes in that flashbacks that would predate this, but I don't count those. I still don't count those as part of the Predator universe. I'm sorry. Those are their own things.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Not that, I think that there's a case that Predators may exist in the Alien universe and Xenomorphs may exist in the Predator universe. And then there's a separate universe where their Aliens and the Predator movies happen and the games. Sure. I think some of the games even call back to those in some weird way. It's complicated. It's more complicated than like the Halloween franchise timeline. Right.
Yeah. Which has like multiple different branching timelines and resets and reboots and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think whatever my point was, I think I made it. And if I didn't, we're moving on anyway.
I remember reading somewhere where, like, I don't remember what exactly I was reading, but I remembered reading something that said that this movie depicts the first time a predator has ever come to Earth. And like, okay. I'm not saying that's not true. What I'm saying is that the actual, like, there's nothing in the actual movie itself that says or even implies that this is first contact between Earth and predators. So who knows?
But there is something in this that makes a direct reference to Predator 2, which is where we first saw the Xenomorph skull, like on a predator ship. So that just complicates things even more. That's why I'm thinking this is just some of it's got to be loose, some of it's got to be kind of just Easter eggy stuff, right? Like
I got you.
Kind of like how, depending on who you talk to, at the end of Jason Goes to Hell, having Freddy Krueger pull the mask down was not supposed to tee up Freddy versus Jason. It was just supposed to be another horror reference because that movie was full of them. It had like the Kandarian dagger from Evil Dead and the Necronomicon and like all kinds of other like horror prop Easter eggs in it. But then revisionist history has made it like, oh yeah, no, they were absolutely teeing that up, right?
Yep, I get you.
So yeah, some of it, sometimes it's just Easter eggs. Anyway, what a brilliant fucking idea for a Predator prequel. Are you kidding me? For a new Predator movie to set it in 1700s, Native American tribes, fur trappers, a predator on the loose, just inspired. Great idea. Great idea for a movie.
I thought it was a great idea, especially going back and watching the first one again. Yeah. And it's like Arnie has like all the ammo and the grenades and the big guns and stuff, but it's like, how does, like, you know, all that does is just piss the predator off. How does he end up actually being able to kill it? Guerrilla tactics and like punji pits and like dropping a log on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, super high tech stuff isn't the way to kill these guys.
No.
So if you're having a predator fight someone who doesn't have access to high tech at all, you know, bang, problem solved. That eliminates the middleman and cuts right to the chase, you know?
Totally. And I will admit, I had this thought of like, this is going to be cool, but I wonder, like, we've seen the stakes, we've seen Predator tech, we've seen what it can do in other movies. Like, is it really going to feel like a fair fight? Yeah, it feels like a real fair fight. It really does.
It does. Yeah. It does. They really kick each other's asses a lot over the course of this movie.
They do. And it happens over a period of time. And you see the Predator taking a lot of damage from a lot of encounters, not just with the, you know, the hunters, but also from animals and things like that. Like when the bear attacks, like you see the bear, like green blood dripping from the bear's mouth, you know, like it did some damage to that boy.
You know? Yeah, that was one thing I really liked about this. They didn't make him invincible until the point in the script where he needed to be damaged by the main character. Like he repeatedly gets attacked and hit and damaged. Like the I believe when he has that brief standoff with the wolf, doesn't the wolf like successfully manage to bite him once before they have their official face off or something? Like he actually does get damaged by just like a regular animal at a couple of different points, I think
I think the only animal it encountered that didn't hurt it was the snake. The snake that its skin. And then the wolf definitely got a bite on its shin or its calf, right? The bear tore it up. Tabe and some of the other hunters definitely tore it up. Naru tore it up. The fur trappers like opened fire on it, and like we see it like constantly sort of like mending, not healing, just like bandaging itself up with predator tech. Like it got the shit beat out of it, and it kept moving because that's what predators do, right? I really like that it wasn't just an unstoppable killing machine. We see it getting hurt, and we see it like fleeing from the fur trapper ambush, for instance, but still like leaving something behind to take them all out, right? Like it's not an invincible.
He certainly does.
It is not an invincible hunter, and I really dug that. What did you think of the design? This is a departure, the Predator's design from how we normally see them, I suppose.
I liked how they made it a little what's the word I'm looking for? Like pre-evolved, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like they made this predator look a little bit more beastly, a little bit more animalistic, a little bit less humanoid. Like, at this point 300 years prior, they haven't like quite fully finished evolving into the version we see in the modern day movies,
Yeah, or this is just a different like subspecies of it, right? Maybe it's just a particularly I don't know Yautja beauty standards, a particularly ugly or beautiful version, right? But I thought it was cool. It definitely more I think the term I've seen online is they call this one the primal predator, which feels pretty accurate.
Because I remember hearing, because I got a coworker of mine is a huge predator guy, and I remember him telling me, because he even collects like, he'll like go out and buy like the NECA figurines and everything. And I remember he always rattles off all of these names of all these individual specific predators that were like, from one of the movies or from one of the comics. And they I remember noticing over the course of time that they all have individual unique names, but those names are never brought up in the movie. And so after I was done with Prey, I was like, I wonder what the name for the predator in this movie is. So it's Primal Predator.
Primal Predator, yeah. And I know like in AVP, Alien versus Predator, not Archie versus Predator. The one of them is called the Celtic Predator, and it's the one that's got kind of skull features on its mask, which I think is pretty cool. Like not like this one. Like this one looks like it's wearing an animal skull as a mask, which I also thought was very cool.
Yeah. Yes. I remember there's one, I don't remember where it was or what movie it was in or anything.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one that was named like Grid or something like that because he had like a hatch mark burn on the side of his face.
Oh, interesting. Because they also in Alien versus Predator, one of the aliens gets that. One of the xenomorphs gets that, and they call that the Grid alien.
Oh, okay. So it was a xenomorph. I thought it was a predator, but that was a xenomorph that happened to. Got it. Again, I haven't seen either of the two AVP movies yet. So
right, because in that movie the predator uses the retracting net. We saw the retracting net return in this movie.
We sure did.
So it started cutting the xenomorph in Alien versus Predator, but then the acid blood burned through the net and it got away. So it just got the grid marks.
I got you. Okay.
French fur trappers don't have acid blood, so those guys just got kind of diced by that retracting net.
They certainly did, man. That scene was so fucking cool. Which actually is a good segue to the other thing that I wanted to mention.
Sure.
Is weirdly enough, this movie was actually giving me real in for one specific reason, in one specific way. This movie was giving me real Metal Gear Solid 3 vibes.
Okay.
Because
a reference that will be completely lost on me.
Well, because Metal Gear Solid 3 is the prequel game. All of the rest of them take place in near future, but Metal Gear 3 takes place in the 60s, but it was made in 2005.
I did know that. Yeah, I knew it was a prequel. Okay.
Yeah, Metal Gear 3 is Snake Eater. So yes, it's the best one in the series, just for anyone that's listening out there. But the whole point of it is that, like, Metal Gear as a franchise has always been super high tech, near future stuff.
Sure.
And in the game set in the 60s, in Snake Eater, even though it takes place in the past, it's still high tech, but it's high tech for the tech they had in the 60s.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing this movie does. Like the
Yes.
Predator's weapons are more primitive in this one than they were in the previous ones,
Yep.
but they're primitive versions of the high-tech weaponry they normally have.
Yes.
So it's like past high-tech stuff, and it just the ways they manage to figure out how to make high-tech version or primitive versions of high-tech weaponry in this movie, all of it I just thought was just so cool and so neat, and I loved all of it.
It's really cool. I love this Predator doesn't have a shoulder cannon, right? Shoulder cannon, classic Predator weapon. We learn in we probably learned it in other places, but we saw it in action in, I want to say, in the Predator, I want to say for the first time, that the auto targeting and firing is a feature of that shoulder cannon. That's not something that the Predator itself is actively trying to do all the time. And that's when we see that same version of that with the auto targeting and firing with its wrist gauntlet that shoots the arrows.
Yeah.
Right? The homing arrows.
Yep.
Very fucking cool. Very cool, like low-tech version of that same sort of automated hunting technology, right?
Yeah, because like for anyone that like hasn't watched it or whatever, like, you know, they still have like the classic like 3-dot targeting system, which like, you know, in the normal movies is just like, or the other movies is just like the targeting beam that it uses.
Yes.
But in this one, we find out that the reason there is a 3-dot targeting beam is because before they invented the shoulder cannon, they used this big like bolt launcher gun, but like it could fire 3 times, and so there are 3 dots because when they were using the bolt launcher, each one of those dots can break apart from each other and target individual things, and then just auto fire 3 bolts at once, which I thought was a fantastic way to like retcon why the target is 3 dots rather than just 1. I loved that so much.
It's very cool. And you're right, it is a separate whole like gun. It's not a gauntlet like I said it was. I don't know why.
Yeah, he like, because at the end of the movie when Naru's fighting him, he's physically holding it in one hand, but it's really big and looks almost like it has like a form design or a form factor like similar to a shotgun. But he still has to physically fire it. It doesn't auto fire. He still has to like actually pull the trigger to shoot it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I guess the way it works is if he's got the mask and the targeting reticule, it will auto home to those points. But if he he doesn't, like, if that's not on, it'll just shoot like normal. Right.
Yeah, like whatever the target dot is pointed at when he pulls out the gun, like regardless of where the actual bolt gun is aimed, when he pulls the trigger, the bolt will come out of it and then home to whatever the dot is pointed at when he like after he pulls the trigger. So yeah, like where the ammo goes is independent from the direction the gun is facing, which I also thought was an interesting touch.
It's kind of like, what is it, Yantu's like whistling arrow? Right.
Yeah, pretty much. It works a lot like that, actually. Yeah.
In visual execution, it looks that way. It sort of flies around. I really dug the changes to the Predator tech. The shield was very cool.
That was the next one I was going to mention too. That shield kicks ass.
Love the shield, the retracting shield, utilized a lot. I love in that last fight how Naru like gets him to cut his own arm off with it.
Yeah, he definitely gets his arm cut the hell off with his own shield. And that was great, man.
And he's holding the shield. It's not a Captain America situation where it got thrown or anything like that. Like he's got the shield in one. His arm is stuck in a tree. His claws, right, stuck in a tree. And then she like bumps him, and he sort of with his other arm with the shield like deflects, but pushes the shield through his own arm that's stuck in the tree and slices it off, and then just sort of looks at it kind of like disappointed for a second
because it was the arm that had the claw blades on,
like,
you know, and he's like, oh man, don't have that anymore. But yeah, like the way the shield works is like, you know, because he has the wrist gauntlet that has like the buttons and sliders and stuff that he uses.
Yeah.
But there's these little gaps on the side that when he activates it, it folds out like a, you know,
fans
like
out.
Picture like a Japanese fan kind of. It folds out and then just turns into a like little small circular like buckler or small shield that he
Yeah.
can use, and it like reflects and bounces off fire. But yeah, like it's built into his wrist gauntlet. It's not like and then folds out from it. It's not like a separate thing that he
Yeah.
has to pull out and use, you know?
It's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, it rules.
Yeah.
And he uses it to cut someone's head off at one point.
Sure. And he tries to use it to cut Naru's head off when she's kind of stuck between the rocks. Let's talk about her.
All right.
Because she's great.
Oh, she's great. I loved her so much.
She's a fantastic character. She's a woman in this tribe. Now, we probably should have led with this disclaimer. Neither of us are experts in Native American culture, right?
Correct.
So we can't speak to the accuracy of the depictions in this movie, but they did seem to be trying to be respectful. They cast Native actors. They used, genuine, Comanche language. They even did a full dub of the movie in Comanche. Is that correct?
Which is the version of the movie I watched, for the record.
Yeah, I watched the English language version because that's the one I had started by accident, and was like, I'm just going to continue. There's plenty of spoken Comanche in that version as well. So, in terms of like accuracy, can't speak to that, but they did seem to be being respectful to the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like a fat white guy, so like I don't really have like a position to be able to like say this with any like, authority, but like when I was watching the movie, I didn't come across anything that like felt offensive or stereotypical to me,
not at all. Felt very
not anything that like obviously jumped out as very clearly being those things. Like you said, for all I know, maybe there is, but I didn't register anything that felt that way to me while I was watching it. So
no, I don't think so. But if there is, let us know. mother@crewexpendable.net. Like, we're interested in learning if this movie turns out was secretly super offensive to Native people. So let's talk a little bit about Naru. So this is supposed to be a Comanche tribe, right? In the Great Northern Plains. She is a kind of, she's a woman in the tribe, so she's more of a gatherer, right? She studies medicine. She's
trained as a medical or a healer is the word I was looking for.
Yes. Her brother Tabe is a hunter, like all of the other men, of course. And Naru also wants to be a hunter, right? She wants to. We see her practicing quite a bit. She's very skilled with the axe that her father left her. And while her mother tells her that axe is supposed to be for cutting roots for plants and things like that, she's obviously trying to learn how to use it to hunt.
Yeah.
She wants her Kuthamia, her big hunt, right? This is a rite of passage for the hunters in the tribe, where they have to hunt something that is hunting them. A big kill, a lion, a bear, what have you, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Right. So she wants this. She wants this rite of passage. Her brother Tabe, he's kind of a mix of like being cautious about letting her do this stuff, but also encouraging, right?
We eventually find out that he has vaguely similar, like on at least some level, he has similar feelings to the rest of the tribe in that he's not sure she's able to hack it, but unlike everyone else, he's willing to let her try.
He's willing to let her try, but he respects her skills. He recognizes that she's a good tracker. He recognizes the value in her having medicine, because she ends up going out with the boys to track down one of their tribesmen who was taken by a lion, right?
Yeah.
And she's definitely interested in going because she wants to be on a hunt. Everyone else is like, hey, we don't need a cook on this, right? Because misogyny is very real, even in other cultures, and even and especially in the past.
That's right.
Tabe stands up for her. He's like, hey, she's a great tracker, which she proves to all of them on this exact expedition, right? And she's great with medicine, which she again proves when she saves the guy's life by giving him medicine, right? Giving him herbs and things.
They find the hunter still alive, like he had been attacked They consistently refer to it as a lion, but I
Yeah.
assume they mean a mountain lion, so a cougar.
Yeah, this
But
is
yeah, like they find him propped up against a tree, wound covered in wounds, but like he's still alive.
right.
And they're part of it is they're trying to figure out like why the mountain lion
Sure.
left, like
Well,
why the mountain lion just left him there and disappeared.
well, she's the only one who seems concerned with that. She
True,
recognizes
you're
that,
right. That is correct. You've got me there. She's the only one that seems to even notice that.
She has to constantly convince Tabe, like, hey, there's something else going on, something strange. Why would the lion leave without its kill, right? It's the tracks are larger than a bear's tracks, etc.
Mhm.
She's also the one who comes up with the plan to bait the lion, a plan that she'll end up using a version of at the end to fight the predator in a very cool, very, very cool reference. Really
Mhm.
made the whole story feel like it's coming full circle. She's just shown throughout this movie to be extremely capable beyond, like capable at the things. Like this is what I think is interesting. This isn't necessarily like I hate foraging. I hate medicine. I want to be a hunter. Like she's good at all of the stuff she does, right?
Mhm.
Like they even acknowledge her mother says like you're good at so many things. Why do you want to hunt? And she's like, well, because none of you think that I can, right? Like she's just good at like she's very skilled. It makes it believable, right? Like that she pays attention. She's smart. She just knows she thinks about these things in ways that the other people don't, and I just really, really appreciate that, and I like it. And you end up rooting for her because she's never like shitty about things, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's never like defeated by everybody else's opinions. She just gets more determined, and she just keeps getting proven right over and over again.
I saw somewhere online. I saw like I don't remember where the review was from, but I saw a review saying that this movie is basically what if Ripley fought a predator in the 1700s.
Yeah, it's a very, very similar character where they're just
they're pretty stylistically similar in like outlook and capabilities and attitude. I mean, she is pretty Ripley like, which
she
I don't
is.
know if that was on purpose, but hey, Ripley's cool, so I'm fine
Yeah.
with seeing another one.
She has that quality of aloofness where it's kind of like I don't really care what the other people are saying or doing. Like I know, like I'm focused and I know what's going on, right? Like yeah, it's that's what makes Ripley a strong character. That's what makes Naru a strong character as well. That's what makes her a believable hero of this movie. Right.
That's right.
Tabe, also great character. I really love that he has his doubts maybe about Naru's abilities, but he's also like gung ho about like letting her try. So
Yeah.
he does believe in her, right? He's like I'm not going to tell her no. I'm going to allow her to try these things, and then she gets to decide. Right.
He doesn't know if she's going to be able to necessarily succeed, but he does trust her and her abilities enough to give her the room to make the attempt.
Right.
Because she has like the plan at the beginning to like you mentioned to like bait out the lion, and for reasons beyond her control it doesn't end up working, and then he ends up killing the lion.
Right.
Then near the end of the movie he's like, you want to know how I killed that lion? I used your plan.
Right.
You were correct.
Well, we see her in that plan when the lion's in the tree with her. As she falls, she does get it with the spear. Like she fucks that lion up. So
yeah, I mean, like her brother later on even acknowledges, like, yeah, you did wound it, and that was the reason I was able to finally finish it off.
Yeah, so, yeah. He I liked their relationship in this. I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I really liked the two of them, but beyond that, I think they were really the only characters outside of the Predator in this movie that I really gave a shit about at all.
Right. The rest of the hunters, what are the names? Itzy, Tabu.
I think there's like
Wasape.
His name is like Watape or Wapate or something like that. I don't remember where the letters are in his name, but it's something like that.
Wasape.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're kind of one note, a little shitty. Like, oh, we don't need a cook. Oh, what's a girl gonna do? Like, you're not a hunter. Like,
yeah,
kind of stuff. Like, even as she's like administering this medicine, and so we do need to talk about this medicine because it is an important plot point.
Yeah, it is.
It's called it's an orange plant called orange totsia, they call it.
All right.
And apparently it's this medicine that cools your blood. Like it cools, like literally brings your body temperature down like dramatically from inside.
Yeah, like
which,
anytime somebody in the movie is depicted as getting it, like they'll take it because you just like ingest it orally, and then 4 or 5 seconds later they'll start shivering and like audibly comment on how cold they are. So
yeah. So when they save Pui, the one who was taken by the lion or the mountain lion, she administers this medicine to him because it slows your heart and everything down, so you're not pumping blood as fast, so that you're not bleeding out. I don't know. I'm not. Again, I am not a doctor either. I cannot speak to.
Neither am I.
I cannot speak to the accuracy of something like that. But the whole point is like this medicine will keep you from bleeding out if you're severely injured. So she administers it to him, and he's freezing cold, and they want to cover him with blankets, and she stops them. She's like, "No, the cold is good. It keeps the blood from flowing." And they go to like cover him anyway, and she stops them, and she's like, "Hey, do you want him comfortable or do you want him alive?" Right. Yeah. So like they're even like in those instances showing like doubt. The thing that they are supposed to acknowledge that she knows about in the village.
Yeah, like the one thing that entire group acknowledges she's good at, they're still trying to be like, actually, we still kind of don't believe you.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating. I feel like they turned them up a little. Like, I feel like they should trust Tabe because he's clearly like the leader, right? He's not the war chief, but he's the leader of the hunters, right?
I mean, that's certainly how they seem to have framed it. Like probably just because he's the brother of the main character, he's like always the hunter that's depicted. Like anytime the plot of the movie needs like a hunter to be doing something, it's always him. Yeah. So even though he's not like the war chief, it's kind of implied he's like, the lead hunter of the tribe or whatever.
Yeah. So they should be, I feel like they should be trusting his assessment a little bit more than they are, and like not being a dick.
I would agree to that.
To Naru. But then we meet the real dicks, the real big giant dicks, which are the fur trappers, who are skinning buffalo and leaving their corpses in the fields, right? A very real thing that did in fact happen. Who capture Naru and Tabe at one point and are going to try to use them to bait out this predator because it's been attacking them as well. This doesn't go well for anybody.
Because as anyone who is familiar with how the predator operates works, two people who are bound and tied and have no weapons and no ways to defend themselves are not the thing that will get a predator's attention. I'll put it that way.
Right. But as we saw in Archie versus Predator issue 2, pick up anything that's a threatening object and it will auto-target and try to kill you. Right.
Yep. So that is correct. I mean, that they even have shades of that in this movie. Like there is someone who is holding like a dagger or a spear. I don't remember what it is, but they're just like walking through the woods, not even holding it in like a visually like aggressive or combative stance. They just like have it and the blade is pointed out.
Yes.
And then you see the pred heat vision like target the weapon and then target the person. Yep. And I'm like, bro, they're just holding it. What are you doing?
Yeah, but he's on a hunt. This predator's on a hunt.
That's true. He's definitely out there actively hunting them. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fur trappers of it all enter the picture. Bloodbath ensues. And it ends up ultimately being the way that Naru is able to bait, recreate her trap with the lion from earlier and bait the predator into a final confrontation. I guess really we shouldn't go into too much detail about that without talking about the quicksand scene, right? The original quicksand scene.
Yeah.
Love a quicksand scene in a movie.
Yeah, you don't see it often enough, do you?
Enough, no.
Although technically this is mud, not quicksand, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's like a big mud pit covered in algae, and so she doesn't know it's there and steps right into it and just falls right in like you would with quicksand.
Yes.
Which also is another thing that I thought was wild. They specifically go out of their way to create a scene where the main character of the movie gets covered in mud right before they fight a predator, but
Mhm.
that does not come into play at all and never actually gets tactically used at
No,
any point when she's actually fighting him.
subverts your expectations.
I thought that was a really nice touch. She
Yes.
still gets covered in mud, but she doesn't end up utilizing that at all. I thought that was nice.
Right. But she, she did something else really brilliant because she uses this axe. It's a throwing. She throws this axe a lot. I don't believe we don't see anybody else in the tribe using axes in this way in any of the hunts in any of those scenes. They're not carrying them.
Nope.
It's a lot of
Uh,
bows and arrows.
like yeah, all of them of course have bows, but I think the standard like bladed sidearm they all have it generally tends to be spears. I think she might be the only person that has an axe.
Right, because it's the weapon that she has that her father gave her. Right.
Yeah.
So she's obviously very adept at throwing this thing, but she decides that like the retrieval aspect of it is just taking a little too long. So she weaves some rope and creates a rope lasso for her axe so she can throw it and then pull it back very quickly.
Mhm.
And in execution, like in the way we see it used in the movie, it fucking rules. This is
Yeah,
what
it
I was
looks cool
saying
as hell.
is cooler than the kunai scene at the beginning of
Yeah, it's
Mortal
like
Kombat, because that's what she's doing. She's throwing it and then yanking it right back and catching it and throwing it again and yanking it right back and catching it. And it just fucking
yeah.
rules.
Yeah, like right after she attaches the tether to it, like we
Yeah.
see her, like, because she's already really good at throwing it.
Yeah.
It's just like, she can't get it quite fast enough. And then she has to go back and retrieve it every time.
Yeah.
And so, like, she attaches the tether to it and then she's standing between a bunch of trees. And you see her, like, trying it out, like throwing it, hitting into trees,
Yeah.
pulling it back, whipping it around.
It's cool.
And, like, even though she wasn't even doing anything, like, in the sense of she wasn't, like, fighting anyone, she was just training on a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, they really made this look very cinematic and cool,
They really did. So when she does get trapped in this mud, she is able to use this invention of hers to pull her way out of it by throwing the axe. Takes a few tries through like some brambles, some bushes, some limbs, low hanging limbs. I don't know nature stuff, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I mean,
But
imagine like what it kind of looks like is picture in your head, listeners. A big tree gets knocked down,
Yeah.
and when it does, the root system
There
part
it
of it
is.
comes out with it. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks like the tangled roots of underneath a tree. I don't know
Yes.
if that actually is what it is because we never see the other side of it, but visually, that's kind of what it looks like.
Yes, perfect explanation. So she's able to get her axe wedged into that and pull herself free, which is very cool and clever. And again, showing her ingenuity and her intelligence, right? I mean, sure, you could be like, well, her dumb ass got trapped in the mud in the first place, but like I would have gotten my ass trapped in that mud too. And if anybody else in this movie had, they probably wouldn't be getting out because they weren't smart enough to make a rope axe, right? Like
just for context, listeners, the whole reason why she fell into that mud pit in the first place is because, like, they were tracking that lion and all that, and she found the predator tracks that she thought were really big bear tracks. And so
Yes.
she was following the tracks and then actually came across like spots indicating that an actual real ass bear was also there. Like she finds like, trees torn up with big claw marks and stuff. And
Yeah.
so she's following the tracks of this bear. And then she steps into this little clearing and then just whoop right into the mud pit. Doesn't know
Yes.
it's there, takes one step and then just falls right through some algae and grass into the mud. So.
She does, yes. Man, we got so much to say. We got to talk about her dog. Sorry.
Her dog is so cute. He's the cutest guy around. I loved him. And listeners, don't worry. He survives for the whole movie.
Dog survives. Thank God.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But she got her hunting and tracking companion. Sorry. Very good dog. I think her mother says something like, you've trained him well. And she says, it's easy. He's smart. Like intelligent dog. Sorry. We didn't bring you up earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, he doesn't play a huge part in the movie,
No.
but he is around for a lot of the first like half or so.
Yes.
And then he gets captured at one point along, or not along with her,
Right.
but he also gets captured the same way she does.
Right.
And then she has to, after she escapes, she has to go back to rescue him.
Yeah. After.
And yeah, he like after about the halfway point, he doesn't really become super relevant to the story, but he is around here and there. And like I said, he does survive to
Right.
the end of the movie, and he's in the final scene celebrating with everyone else. So
Sure. When they all get their medals from Princess Leia,
that's right.
except for Chewie, which is fucked.
Yeah, that's how it goes. No.
So after they escape the fur trappers, like, you know, attack. That whole fur trapper scene, great action set piece. Also, by the way, like from the start, where the guys are like leaned down, aiming their guns in, thinking they're gonna catch the dude, and you just sort of see from behind them a guy fall off a horse. And all of the horses run off in pieces. Yes, the guy falls off the horse in pieces, and the horses run off. Like, man, what a great scene.
Like,
you know?
we don't see specifically what happens to them because the camera's trained on the two dudes in the foreground, but we hear like a sound, and then we see a little bit of blood spray and two pieces fall off of this horse.
Right.
But it's all like faded out in the background, kind of blurry, like unfocused.
Really
and
cool.
We're like, oh no, there he is.
There
and
he
sure
is.
enough,
Bob Predator.
That's right.
But after that scene is when she's going to get her dog back, right?
Yeah, that's like, because, you know, like you mentioned, her and her brother they're both captured by them,
right?
And she manages to get the two of them out, and he says, we need horses to be able to get away from this thing, and she goes, you go get the horses, I gotta go rescue my dog. And he immediately is like, yes, of course, go do that. He doesn't even be like, it's just a dog. He immediately goes, yes, that is as relevant and important, go do that. That matters.
Tabe fucking gets it.
He rules. I love him so much.
So Naru goes into the camp, goes back to the fur traders camp, and they're frantically trying to get the fuck out of there because so many of them have been murdered by the Predator at this point. Like pretty much all of them. There's only a handful left, and they're like, shit.
She ends up fighting, I think, like 4 or 5 people during this scene, and it's implied they're like the only 4 or 5 people left here.
Yeah. This fight scene rules. The way it's shot, the way it's filmed, the way she fights, the tactics that she uses. I loved this. This was a standout scene. Like, I was like, holy shit. This is when she's throwing the axe and pulling it back right at dudes.
And then like hits a guy in the chest with it, and then pulls it out and whips it through the air, and then gets a guy on her other side in the neck with it. You know, she's just like whipping this thing the hell around, and it rules.
Awesome. To save the dog, she goes like full on John Wick mode. You know,
that's right.
It's great. Love this scene. This is where she encounters, I said his name earlier, Raphael, I think, the translator, for the second time, because she's already talked to him when she was being captive. And he's like lost his foot.
Well, he didn't lose his foot. He lost, like, it's from the knee down. The entire bottom half of his leg is just gone.
When you first see it, he's still got his pants on, so you just kind of see it loose at the bottom. I thought maybe it was just his foot, but you're right. We see it later. It is like knee down, from just below the knee down. He's lost his. Right.
Because there was this scene earlier where a bunch of the trappers, like the Predator, was jumping zigzag through a bunch of trees over the trappers' heads, and they were all firing at him as he went by. But like, we found out later on that afterwards he dropped this little package while he was jumping over them, and the package is basically like these little disc-shaped mines that have these like blades that extend out the side. And the reason this is relevant is because when Naru meets the translator, his leg, like I said, his leg from the knee down is gone, but it's not like blown or ripped off. It was just cleanly cut through. And one of those mine blades is like attached to the stump still. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. And then pulls the mine blade off and then puts it in her bag, which becomes relevant later because she uses it later on.
Yeah. So he is asking her for help with medicine. In exchange, he gives her a pistol and tells her how to use it.
like how to put the powder in it, how to fire it, you know, like she teaches her how to use it as well as just giving it to her. Yeah.
Right. The pistol says on it,
I believe it has his name etched into it on a little like placard on the side. I believe
it has his name, Raphael Adolini. 1715 is the date engraved on it. So for some Predator heads out there, alarms are going off because this pistol shows up at the very end of Predator 2.
Oh, this is the one from Predator 2. Okay,
this is the pistol from Predator 2, engraved Raphael Adolini 1715. Yeah.
How did the Predators get it back to be able to give it to Danny Glover then?
We don't know, but presumably they're going to come back and check on this village. Now, originally there was a comic book story, a Dark Horse Comics short story published detailing the gun's origin, that it came from a Spanish pirate. It was a story called Predator 1718, and then this is a movie that takes place in 1719. So obviously that Dark Horse comic story is non-canon as of this movie, but that was the old official explanation, I guess, was this Dark Horse comic story.
I got you. Right.
So we don't know. We don't know how the Predators get it, but presumably they're going to come back with another hunting party at some point, right? Maybe we're going to get a Prey 2, right? What if they just start naming them stuff like that, right?
Well, they Dan Trachtenberg has already gone on record as saying that they do plan on making more movies. I don't know if that's specifically like, you know, the specifically Prey part of this franchise will have more of them, but he did imply that he was going to be making some more Predator movies.
I would love that if they just do one like every 2 years at a scale like this, right? I would watch every single fucking one. I watch all the Friday the 13th movies, you know, like they don't.
I mean, I would be fine if they made a brand new sub series of Predator movies that's just like Prey 2, Prey 3, Prey 4, and it's all just Naru fighting an increasingly weird series of predators when they like show up to try to kill her because they keep getting increasingly mad she's good enough to keep killing them. Like if they just kept bringing her back and just kept doing this movie again, I would be fine with that because I fucking loved this movie so much.
Ultimately, they have so much respect for her. She just becomes Queen Predator. Right.
Yeah, just like give me more of the same. It worked the first, like we've talked about before. Like every Bond movie is every single Bond movie just done again.
Right.
Like I would be fine with if they just did more of this because I loved it a lot and I had a lot of fun watching it.
Alternately, I'm thinking like give me a Predator movie set during the Revolutionary War, right? Give me one set in, you know, the War of 1812. Give me pick points in history. Give me one set in, I don't know, feudal Japan, right? Like that'd be fucking rad, you know? So
what you're suggesting is that they turn Predator into Assassin's Creed. Got it.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, you know, if this is the first time a Predator has come to Earth to hunt, like, okay, but it doesn't have to be. There could be, you know, give me a you know, Neanderthal, right? Fighting a predator.
Because like that's the thing, like how I mentioned earlier that I was reading a thing saying that this movie depicts the first time a predator ever comes to Earth. Like nothing in the movie actually says that. Right. I saw that written online. Like there's no evidence in the actual movie itself that points towards this is the first time a predator's ever been on Earth. Right. So there's no reason why you couldn't do another one that takes place before this. So, you know, whatever, who knows?
Give me a Predator movie set in, expand on what we saw in Alien versus Predator with like Mayan and Incan cultures worshiping the predator. Just give me that. Expand on that. I don't know. I like this idea. I like this idea of predators just showing up at different points throughout Earth history as a whole in different cultures and areas and getting into hunting matches, right? It's cool. Like it's a cool idea. Whatever they do,
it is. It rules.
If they continue this plot, this line with with Naru, like I'm down with that too. That's great.
I will say I do find it funny though that one of the time periods you suggested is feudal Japan,
Yeah.
because it reminded me about how in this movie they actually do the samurai thing where two people are charging at each other and one of them swings the weapon and then the other one's like, haha, you missed, and then breaks into pieces a few seconds later.
Right. Except in this, they did it with the Predator and a wolf.
Yeah, it's when he's fighting down the wolf. He's like invisible, and the two of them are crouched at each other, and then they charge forwards like towards each other. And then the wolf just runs by, and you hear like the squelch, and the wolf's like, ha ha ha, yeah, and then turns around, and then there's just a gush of blood, and it falls over. And I'm like, oh, they did the samurai thing.
At least the wolf didn't land with its head cut off like Shogun Assassin. And just
although it does get its head cut off.
It does.
That's not because like anytime the Predator like kills an animal, he like, takes the trophy of like the skull and the spine. And like after he kills the wolf, we actually like see it remove its head and spine. I was like, oh, he even just like does it to in my notes, I had written down, oh, weird, he even does it to animals too. Then I remembered that in Predator 2, there's an alien skull. And so it's like, yeah, of course they do it to animals. And like we saw that in the second one,
And also, we are animals to them. So we're just another animal.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. You got me there.
I liked this. I liked seeing the Predator hunting other stuff, killing other stuff, non-human stuff.
Oh, and also speaking of him harvesting his trophies, there was that brief little scene of, I think it was with the wolf, when he's like back in his little hideout cave and he like puts it on a stone and then like pulls out this spray and just starts spraying the skull, and it like breaks down and eats away all of the skin and muscle, so the bone is just there. And it's like, I don't know if they did that in any of the other movies, but I had never seen them do that in the movie, and so I was like, oh, that's how they do it. That's cool.
They've definitely shown them cleaning skulls before. In the first one, they've definitely done some of that. I don't know if it's the same.
I must have forgotten that scene because, like I said, I've seen the first one and I definitely don't remember them doing that. So I guess I just forgot about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same. If it's the same procedure, because we see them treat wounds differently in different movies. We see them like the Predator tech, non-shoulder cannon tech specifically, seems to change rapidly between movies and creators and universes and stuff. So I don't know that it's the same exact process, but the cleaning of the skull is a like, I think it was just like an aerosol mist that like came out of its gauntlet in the first Predator.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happens here. It might be like a separate canister, I'm not sure.
Right. Maybe,
but he basically just sits it on a rock and he's just like all over it, and then over the course of just a few seconds it all just breaks down and there's only bone left.
For some reason in my head, everything just comes out of their gauntlets. I don't know what that's about. As I was saying, I really like seeing the Predator hunting like the other animals. The bear fight was pretty cool. For instance, when he finally gets the bear and he's like lifted it over his head and he's cloaked. The Predator's cloaked a significant amount of time in this movie. I mean, that's standard I guess, for Predator movies in general, but like a lot of cloaking in this one, to the point where I'm kind of like, all right, you little wimp, like, sure, when no one can see you, like this isn't, you're not showing skill here by just turning on your camouflage. Like, that's something that's kind of always bugged me about the Predators. Like, I was glad that the shoulder cannon wasn't going to be in this, because the shoulder cannon feels a little bit like a cop out when it just
like he can just cloak and then blow someone away from cover.
There's no sport in that, like, but whatever, it's it's their way, right? But when he picks that bear up and just starts getting bathed in its blood,
like he rips. Well, actually, it's great because that's another thing that I noticed. Like when he was fighting that bear, he kills it by beating it to death with his bare hands. He doesn't like run it through with his spear or whatever. Like he kills that thing by it comes at him and he punches it in the face so hard that it dies.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
He's a fighter.
like he roars and then he picks up the bear, and like you said, he's still cloaked, and so he's holding the bear roaring triumphantly over his head,
Yeah.
and the blood is pouring out of the bear's body and covering him so that he becomes visible from the waist up,
That was
even though
intense.
he's still cloaked because he's just covered in blood.
Yeah, dude, it was gross and awesome.
For anyone out there that's seen it, imagine the opening credit sequence to I was going to say the Netflix Daredevil show, but it's on Disney Plus now.
Sure.
But the credit sequence for the Daredevil show, that's literally how it looks.
Yeah.
Like it's invisible and then blood pours over it and then you can see the shape of it.
And the special effect was only mildly better than in the Daredevil opening scene. There were definitely some CG, some special effects. I don't know what to call them. They weren't great in certain instances. The animals, mostly, it seemed to be.
Yeah, the animals looked kind of fake. And like, honestly, like once the Predator lost his mask, I thought the CG on his face didn't look super great either.
Right. Yeah. But you know, the budget they were working in, it still looks good. It didn't distract or ruin the movie for me.
It did still look good. It didn't look the best it could possibly get, but
Right.
it didn't look like bad enough to take you out of the movie, you know?
Yeah. But, you know, we got to throw some criticisms in here, too. The CG work was maybe a little rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still a great movie.
No, I loved it. I had a great time. I had a blast watching it. If I thought I would have had time to watch it again before doing this episode, I would have, because I loved staying in that world. I loved seeing the primitive high tech. I loved watching Naru run around, you know, firing off the bows, throwing her axe at people. I loved watching that dog wandering around. I loved watching that fat Frenchman get murdered. That ruled.
We have to talk about that a little bit. I think we need to cap this off by talking a little bit about the end of the movie, about Naru finally getting her Kutamiya, right?
All right.
I want to start a little bit with Tabe, right?
All right.
Her and Tabe facing the Predator. This is at the they're still at the fur trappers village, right?
Where I think so.
Yes, where she's got the flintlock pistol. Tabe has gotten one of the horses and is really fucking knocking this Predator around like crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Because like she goes back and rescues her dog, and then while she's like talking to the translator and he's teaching her how to like, you know, load and fire and use the gun, he like takes the orange flower, and so when the Predator shows up, he doesn't register the translator as still being alive, but then he makes a sound and the Predator kills him anyway,
because the Predator like steps on his leg.
Yeah, and he like cries out, and the Predator's like, "Oh shit!" Stab.
Right.
And then after that, Sari the dog comes running up, and like the Predator like pulls out his dart launcher, and I went, "Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!" And then just as he's about to fire, Tabe comes out of nowhere on a horse and just fucking whacks the Predator right in the back of the head, and he goes stumbling and flying.
And knocks the targeting off, and the dart flies away.
And then Tabe like circles around the Predator on the horse, like whacking him and like shooting the bows at him and stuff to like give Naru time to like load this gun. And then when she's finally ready, Tabe gets off the horse and engages the Predator in hand-to-hand combat. And Tabe kicks so much ass in this scene.
He's like stabbed the Predator through with a spear.
Yeah.
Right.
Like right through like the middle of the shoulder, right under the collarbone.
He's done a lot of damage, several arrows, right? At this point, the Predator, so the gun misfires. She's not able to get the shot off. We should just say that now.
Yeah.
The Predator turns on easy mode and goes invisible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Tabe is like, you need to get out of here. It perceives me as the threat.
Yeah, he basically is like, I'm going to sacrifice myself so that you can get away.
They have this saying they do in hunts where when they're facing a kill, they say, this is as far as you go no further. Something like that.
Yeah, right. Something to that effect.
That's
Yeah.
maybe not exact, but that's a paraphrase. So he says to her, this is as far as I go, knowing he's like, this is it. This is my last fight. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he does this so she can get away. And she does. The predator stabs Tabe with its wrist claws.
Yeah.
Starts to come after Naru, but Tabe again stabs it in the leg.
And yeah, he like gets distracted enough that she's able to like escape while the predator turns around and finishes Tabe off.
She's able to escape. She finds the fur trapper, Big Beard, I believe we said his name is.
Yeah, he's like the leader of the fur trappers.
Sure.
And like when you're watching the movie, he's the big, huge, fat guy that like
it's a real piece
tried, like, you know, is the one that revealed to her that they had captured Tabe earlier on in the movie.
And had massacred all those buffalo because he's just wearing one of their hides as a cape, and then was like stabbing at her, probing at her in the cage he was keeping her in with a spear. Don't know why I couldn't find that word for a second there.
But she escapes from the predator and then makes it down to like this little like creek or small riverbed or whatever. And she hears some movement, and then she looks over, and then she sees him a little ways away, like splashing around in the water, like cleaning up or grabbing water to drink or whatever it is that he's doing. I don't know, but
yeah, she gets up on him and she knocks him the fuck out. And she's like,
she like sees him, and she's like, she pulls out the gun to shoot him. And then she's eventually like, you know what? Stows the gun. And then it cuts to a shot of like him splashing around in the water. And then quick as lightning, she runs up from the side and just bops him in the head with a big rock.
So her plan to fight the predator is twofold. It's great. It's a strong. We see a culmination of literally every like bit of information she's collected over the course of this movie about how this guy works, about the effects of the flower and the way it keeps the predator from being able to see you because it cools your blood, right? And they use heat vision. The way it will attack things that have weapons, the way the automated targeting system works, just the whole shebang. Her initial plan on baiting the lion, right? Like setting a trap for the lion. Just she puts all the quicksand. She just puts all of this stuff into one plan. The payoff is so good.
Like this is the moment where we find out that literally every single scene previously in the movie was irrelevant to the narrative because all of it comes back into play during the climactic fight.
It's the opposite of Jurassic World.
Correct.
You know, where dumb shit happened so something cool could happen at the end, and this a bunch of cool shit happened that pays off strongly at the end. Like this it's incredible.
Everything in this movie happens to give her information to use during the climax.
Yeah, it's so well done. So she's talking to Big Beard, right? And she's cut his leg off. For starters,
she certainly has.
He's woken up in the dark. Rats are eating him, right? There's a rifle there. She's standing there by a fire, I believe. And she's like, you made my brother bleed, so I've made you bleed. You know, you don't perceive me as a threat. You can't, because of that, you can't see that I'm killing you. And it won't see that either.
And then she whistles.
Yes.
Which is relevant because she does that specifically to attract the predator to their location.
Right.
So
dude's making a lot of noise though, you know.
That's true.
Scrambling for the rifle, aims it at her and tries to fire, but it doesn't fire because she's not going to leave a loaded rifle there. She's not a dumbass.
Yeah.
And she knows how rifles work. She learned how they work. So she knew how to disarm
now
it.
that the translator taught her how to use flintlocks, she knows whether a rifle is loaded or not.
Yeah, not too much, not too little, etc. She knows the whole shebang, so to speak. Predator walks in behind her, doesn't see her because she's ingested the flower, right?
Yep.
So her blood is cool. So she just kind of like takes a brief step to the side as it walks past.
Yeah, walks by her without even noticing that she was even there. Yeah. And part because like it cools your blood, but it doesn't make you totally cold, so that even in like heat vision, you still register as like a pale green or whatever.
Right.
But like since she built a big fire, that's going to be noticeable enough that even like the pale green her body would register as,
Yeah.
he's still not even able to notice it because of the big fire.
Sure.
You know?
And the obvious target in front of him.
You
right?
know, the big fat guy glowing red in the heat vision, pointing a big rifle at him. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy gets offed. Naru calmly, as the Predator's dispatching Big Beard, raises the flintlock to the back of the Predator's head and just shoots him.
Yeah, shoots him right in the fucking
Now,
head, execution style. Bang.
Not gonna lie, there was a second where I was like, if this is the end of the fucking movie, I'm gonna stand up and cheer. Like, what? How fucking baller would that have fucking been? Dude?
I thought the same thing. I was like, if she is about to kill the Predator by shooting him point blank in the back of the head, I would be like, hell yes.
Yeah, just pop, boom, done, man. But no, it knocks his mask off though, which she snatches and makes a run for it.
Yeah, she scoops it up and runs into the woods with it. Yeah.
So part one is her lion trap, right? Put the bait out, put the meat out, attract the thing, but it needs to perceive the thing as a threat, so she puts the rifle there, right?
Yeah.
Great. Full circle, right? She runs to another location.
She goes back to where the mud pit was,
Right.
and like those brambles were that she pulled herself out, and she sets up like a bunch of like punji spikes all over a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
And then specifically like tactically positions his mask
Sure.
right in like one corner of this big clearing that's on the other side
Right.
of the mud pit, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So she's setting traps. This is very much like Arnold in the Jungle in Predator 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot like that. It's different traps, but it has that same vibe. Yeah.
Sure. And when the Predator does show up, she's engaging in a fight with it. I mean, I don't want to go into, we don't need to detail everything, but like, again, she's deploying her fighting tactics we saw her use in the trappers camp. She's using her axe, right?
She almost gets her head cut off by that deployable shield,
Right.
and then she does cut its arm off below the elbow, and like
we talked about that stuff earlier.
well, yeah, I know, but like this is when that happens. But
Right.
like thinking about it now, is his shield the thing that cuts his arm off?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Because like thinking about it now, is that when she uses that little deployable mine spike?
I don't, honestly, we could look it up.
Yeah, I don't actually remember anymore. Like I said, I watched this over the course of like 4 or 5 hours last night while I was taking notes. So I may have just like missed that or misremembered it. But anyway, yeah, we, like you said, we mentioned earlier that his arm gets cut off, but like this is when that happens during the big climactic fight between them at the end of the movie.
I'm going to see if I can pull the scene up.
But yeah, the two of them are fighting each other. They're going knock down, drag out, beating each other's ass. And she's like basically leading him through this set of traps. Like, they like he's running after her at one point, and then she dodges at the last second, and he accidentally impales himself on the side on those like big spikes she tied to the tree,
Yeah.
And then he comes into the clearing and like sees his mask posted up there over on the side. And he's like, aha, and rushes like beelines directly to it, and then gets halfway through and fucking falls in the mud pit. And then she comes in from another side, making him turn around and face a different direction, which actually does become relevant to the fight, because she basically like posts up and like waits for him to pull out his like bolt launcher gun and like aim it at her. And she's like waiting and waiting and waiting as he's like, getting ready, pulling it out, targeting at her. And then he like pulls out the gun Because, like, as we said earlier, if the targeting reticle isn't on, then when he pulls the trigger, it just shoots straight out like a normal gun.
Right.
And he doesn't have his mask on, but when he pulls the gun out, it like activates the tracking beacon on his mask. But the mask is situated in such a way where it's pointed at him.
Yes.
But since he's pivoted in the mud pit, he doesn't notice the targeting beam is on him. And so since he doesn't know the mask is there and active, he thinks when he pulls the trigger, the bolt's just going to shoot straight out and hit her. But
no.
Since the targeting beam is on, he pulls the trigger and then the bolt shoots out and then travels in a big arc around the clearing and then just goes right the fuck through his skull and kills him.
Boom. Done. Yeah,
he's dead as hell.
It's awesome. Okay, I'm queued up at this scene. I'm gonna hit play here.
All right.
So he claws in, she stabs. Yeah, she stabs at him. So his claws go in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
She's got his spear, right?
Okay.
She swings at him with the spear. He deflects with the shield, but it kind of keeps moving into his arm. It looks like he cuts the arm off with the shield because she's using the spear at that point. Another thing I want to say: this whole fight scene, right? This whole climax, it's dark. There's like very little lighting at all, just enough for us to see them. But it's a predator, so as this predator is getting fucked up, it's just fluorescent green, like predator blood splattering all over her,
all over the place,
all over him,
and also it's snowing the whole time.
It's a beautiful scene. It's weirdly, it's gross and beautiful. Yeah, it's a light snow. It's just awesome. Like, it looks great. I can't. Yeah. I just looking at this again just now. Like, I love this movie, dude. This movie is. Yeah, the
big climactic fight, like the big climactic fight scene was probably my favorite part of the movie, and I had a great time. It was a thrill ride. They both just kick each other's asses so bad. Like, both of them, like, if they were to have both survived, they would be walking out of this fight limping, like they like both of them gave as hard as they took, you know.
Yeah. It rules. It's great. This might be my favorite Predator movie, honestly. Like,
it's very good.
This is I have recency bias, obviously. That's a real thing that happens. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ, like I loved Alien Covenant. I have a feeling next time I watch Alien Covenant, I'm not going to love it the way I watched it, like the way I loved it when we watched it for this show. Especially once I've revisited the better, quote unquote, better movies, right?
That's true. But as you pointed out, it might just be recency bias, but I did read a thing early this morning saying that Prey is the currently the highest rated Predator movie on Metacritic. So
I think that's a fair assessment.
And possibly also on Rotten Tomatoes as well. But yeah, it's currently the highest rated movie in the franchise. And like I said, I haven't seen all 5 of them, but of the 3 I've seen, I do think this one is the best one.
I think this is amongst the top. This is, if it's not my favorite, it's my second. It's got to be. It's every single bit of this movie feels earned, right?
Yeah, it rules.
Like, it was very
like the movie,
smartly written, smartly paced, well acted, smartly casted, everything, and just the way shot and directed. It just comes together perfectly at the end.
Yeah, they really went out of their way to make a movie that works on pretty much every single level. Yeah. Like, they really tried hard to make exactly the movie you wanted when you hear the premise Predator fights a Native American,
Yeah, it's awesome. And it just feels, everything feels earned, everything feels justified, everything feels right at the end of the day for me. I want this to be like, this is the way you make a prequel. I'm sorry. This is how you do it for a series like this. Yes. This is how you fucking do it. It's similar enough, but original and new and different, and pays respect to what came before it in terms of the movies that were made, while also telling its own story, but fitting into the world, right, and not overcomplicating or over-explaining shit either. Right, like a little movie called Prometheus.
it is a prequel movie that does not fall into the standard normal traps that most prequel movies do. Like, say for instance, Solo, the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'll admit, like, I actually do think that movie is fun. I'm not necessarily going to say I like it, but I enjoy watching it.
Hard to have a bad time when you're watching Woody Harrelson do anything.
Yeah, that's true. But like, it's one of those things where like you watch the original Star Wars trilogy, every single piece of information the movie ever gives you about Han Solo, you watch the Solo Han Solo movie, ironically enough, and literally every single one of them is like in the movie.
This is how he
like,
met
you know,
Chewie and how
like
he got
everything we ever know about him is contained in this one like 90-minute movie. And like that kind of stuff really pisses me off. But like this movie doesn't do that. Like the only stuff that comes into play as far as like, you know, oh, they're doing it because it's a prequel to tie it in. Like the only times they do that is stuff where it actually like narratively makes sense.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I think the good test is if this is somebody's first Predator movie, perfect, right? It's not like walking in at The Predator, where if The Predator is your first Predator movie, you're kind of fucked and you have no idea what the series is. If Alien Resurrection is your first Alien movie, right? Like, what do you like? What are you doing? You know, like, but Prey can be your first Predator movie. It can be your only Predator movie, and you will be completely fine and satisfied and understand what the property is. Like, if like I would be inclined to show this to someone who's never seen a Predator movie, be like, okay, let's check out Prey. Prey's really, really good. And if you like that, then we'll go visit the original, you know, like. And
also I should point out right now, while we're talking about tie-ins to the other movies in the franchise, this happened in the first AVP issue episode, and we forgot to do it while we were recording the episode. So I feel the need, I have to go through and say it right now. There is a scene where Naru and Tabe are tied to a tree and they're talking about what they're going to do against the Predator. And Tabe turns to Naru and says, "If it bleeds, we'll kill it."
Whoa, is that what he says in the Comanche version? Because in the English version, he says, "I'm a goddamn sexual tyrannosaur."
But like Walter, since I watched, like I said, since I watched the Comanche dub, it was really fun to have the callback of that line, but this time it's not even said in English, and I thought that just gave it a little bit of verisimilitude that made it work really well for me.
That is a really nice, it's a great line. It's the perfect line if you're going to reuse one.
Yeah.
Because it's a good line on its own, and it's the kind of line you would believe a character like Tabe would say, right?
Yeah, because he's like a hunter. He's trained for this. Like, he knows how to kill things, you know?
If it bleeds, we can kill it is the best line from Predator. It's an Arnold line. I know I once misattributed it to Jesse Ventura. I am glad that nobody in this said, "I ain't got time to bleed." That would have been kind of fucked.
That would have been kind of stupid.
I wonder if what if somebody did that in, like, what if one of the fur trappers said that in French?
I was just about to say, I don't know French, so maybe one of the French guys said that and I just didn't realize it.
Yeah, I could pick out a handful of the French, but mostly when they were talking about the dog or the girl, you know.
Yeah, like the two that I got were right at the end when Big Beard is about to get killed by the Predator. He looks up and goes, "Daemon," and I was like, hey, I know what that means. And then later on, also right before they're about to get killed, one of the other character goes, "Merda," right before they die.
Oh yeah, what a good movie.
But anyway, I forgot to mention, though, like I said, she uses this thing's bolt thrower against it, and it, the bolt goes right through the head and kills it. And then she comes back to the tribe because, like, they had all thought she was dead because they haven't seen her in like days. And so she comes back with the severed head of the Predator because, like, that's what you have to do when you like kill the thing that you're going out to do your like hunting trial on. You have to kill the head of it and bring it back. And she's like redone her war paint, but like using the glowing blood of the Predator. And then she like, tosses the head of it, on the ground in front of the war chief. tosses the pistol over to him, and then you see one of the characters look at it, and that's when we see the engraving on the side of it.
Sure, yeah.
And then after that, they like do the celebration and like, you know, presumably like make her the war chief or whatever the celebration is for.
Yeah.
And you know, we see the dog there celebrating, and there's like this young girl in the tribe that the two of them have this kind of look like, where she's like, you know, hey, I can do it, you can too.
Right.
And then after that, it cuts to the credit sequence. And like the credit sequence is really cool. It's like animated, but like the art style like looks like traditional Native American art.
Yeah.
But it's just like going sequentially through like all of the major scenes in the movie. And the final one of the credit sequence is the final scene of the movie. But then this credit sequence picks up where the movie leaves off,
right?
Because like we see the celebration, and like we see, you know, the character meant to represent Naru standing there, and then it kind of like pans over a little, and again, this is all in like the animated art style. A storm rolls in and clouds appear, and then the clouds part, and 3 more Predator scout ships come in through the clouds, and then it just cuts to the credits and runs the rest of the credits like normal.
Right, which is probably how they're going to get that pistol.
Yeah, probably. Of course, that would be very unfortunate if that is how they get the pistol, because that implies that Naru goes through all of this and then just immediately afterwards gets killed by a Predator. Sure.
I think that these Predators would have some respect. I mean, she took down one of theirs. That seems to be what happens when you see other Predator ships come in. Like that at the end, I'll just say at the end of Predator 2, Danny Glover gets that pistol because he kills one of the Predators. So the elder ones are like, okay, you deserve to live. And they give him the pistol. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So that's how he gets it. So then, yeah, like these Predators probably aren't going to kill her, because it was like, you know, she shows up, there's a severed Predator head, and she's covered in Predator blood. So they probably have you know, at least a gist of an idea about what went down.
So there's some kind of code of honor they're going to have and be like, yeah, you're okay. You got this. We're going to move you to the South Plains, away from the fur trappers, which is where Comanche typically seems to live.
Yeah, I was even looking it up, and it's like their range extended up as far as like Kansas and Nebraska at the northern end. And so I'm assuming, because the movie's depicted as being taken place in the northern Great Plains, I assume the movie just took place in like Kansas or Nebraska, which is like the high end of the Comanche area anyway.
It must be. I mean, I was feeling like this must be like the Dakotas or something, but
I had guessed North Dakota or Montana, but then I looked it up, and Comanches weren't typically that high up north. So probably more like Nebraska or Kansas, right around there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, this movie fucking ruled. It kicked ass. I loved it, and I would watch it again in a heartbeat.
I want this to be the template for which they approach the Alien movie, right? Like, I don't mean set it in Native American. Like, I got 2 thoughts on this. The first is I like the idea that this shit is just out there and can find its way to us and kill us. That's what makes it scary, right?
Yeah.
I don't think a Predator would be hunting me, right? Because I'm not a threat.
Probably not.
I'm not. Yeah,
we would not be viewed as threats to them. Yes.
No, unless it like views like cordless impact drivers and drills and circular saws as a weapon, but like I would show all the safety features to them. It's really hard to do damage. Anyway, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I like the idea that this stuff could be a present day threat. And the thing I don't like about the implications of Alien Covenant, that I understand they've rolled back in a lot of ways, thank God, is that all of this stuff is a threat hundreds of years from now when I'm not around for it anyway. Right. Yeah. I like the idea that this stuff could get to us now. That's what makes it scary.
Building off of your idea more generally, one other thing I did tonally and structurally like about this movie a lot is that Prey felt a lot more of a horror movie to me than the other ones did. Like, this is a lot more horror styled than the other ones are. There's a lot more of like getting attacked, scenes where it's clear that you're getting stalked, things like that. This is kind of a horror movie in a way the other ones kind of aren't.
Right. The first one tried to be, but when you've got dudes with giant machine guns, it is hard to be a horror movie, like when they're just cutting down the jungle. But I like this smaller approach, self-contained story, still makes some light references to the rest of the series, fits in to the rest of the series, doesn't rewrite anything like major. I mean, let's be clear, I'm not super versed in Predator mythology the way that I am in alien mythology, right? So like, but none of this jumped out as like, that's not at all what a Predator would be like, right?
Yeah.
Use this as a template for an alien movie. They're going to make a self-contained alien movie that is not a part of the other, like not connected to the other entries in the franchise. Fucking great. Sign me up all day long. Do 10 of those. Do 10 of those. Do 10 of these. Do 10 crossovers. I'm going to watch all of them. I want this smaller scale story, self-contained thing without adding a whole bunch of mythology and explanations and shit is the way to fucking do these.
Dude, I want you to picture, if you can, just picture in your mind.
Sure.
An alien movie where it's structured similarly to 1 and 3, where there is one alien that is a threat. It's not a whole group of them. It's a one singular alien.
Right.
But it lands on prehistoric Earth and cavemen have to fight it.
Holy moly. That would be pretty fucking
like
rad.
You have the spear that's just like a sharpened stick, and they stab it and then the spear melts because the acid blood burns it away.
Spear is gone.
Yeah, just imagine a group of cavemen having to fight a xenomorph.
The struggle to invent fire to be able to fight it with,
Yeah, dude.
To discover fire, I guess.
Maybe that's how fire is discovered,
Yeah, and then that's your connection to Prometheus. Holy shit. Yeah. We did it.
Bam. Yeah, I was just about to say, we fucking did it. We tied it all up in a nice, perfect little bow.
I would watch that movie. I would watch
that would kick ass so much.
Cave people versus Xenomorph movie.
Yeah, that would rule.
But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm so hopeful for the way 20th Century Pictures and Disney is going to approach these two franchises, right? Because, we're alien guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're casual Predator fans. We're deeper alien fans. But the two franchises are inevitably always going to be connected, just from here on out. So if this is the model for how they're going to handle the Alien franchise, I am psyched. I am genuinely excited for where that series is going to go.
I mean, admittedly, we don't have any actual proof, any empirical evidence that they're going to use this as a template going forward. But if they did, it would be cool, and I think it would work really well.
Reception of this so far has been really strong. And I think that will maintain, honestly. Like, there's the shitty IMDb user interviews out there like, how could a little girl fight a predator? This movie's garbage. Like genuinely like upset that it's not like, they're like, we used to have like big burly masculine dudes in these, and now it's now it's a little girl. I
kept seeing that complaint on the lead up to the release of the movie. It's just like, oh, she's just like a little girl. How could she fight him without having all these big, huge weaponry? He's going to wipe the floor with her. And I'm like, did you forget how the first movie ends?
Yeah.
Like, he has to get rid of his tech and fight the Predator like he's an Ewok.
Right.
That's what it takes to stop them.
The point of the first movie is it doesn't matter how big and strong you are and how much military might you have. This thing is going to stalk you and kill you anyway.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what kind of tech you have because predators have better tech than you. It's not like your technology and your weapons capabilities are not what matter.
You can't. You're not going to win an arms race against a predator. Right.
Yeah, like we already agree, like we're already on the same page. We don't need to go into it. But a lot of people are like, oh, how could somebody with a bow stop a predator? And I'm like, Arnie kills the predator by hitting it with a log. How is fighting it with a bow any different?
Like, I get it if you just want to see like big ripped muscly dudes running around in the jungle getting sweaty. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. We all like
Commando.
That. We all love
Watch Commando.
But that doesn't make it a predator movie. That's not I mean,
That's not
Predator,
what they're about.
Danny Glover was the hero of Predator 2.
Yeah, Danny Glover is just some guy.
He spends that movie looking like somebody's kind of like tired dad, like, and he still faces off
and
against
yet he
predators.
still does a good enough job that a predator shows up and says, "We're giving you this antique weapon as like a show of our respect for you,
and we're not, and we are not going to fucking murder you."
Yeah.
Yeah, even though we very easily could because you're Danny Glover.
Yeah, exactly.
You look like there's only 3 days left till retirement in this movie.
He always looks like that every time.
So I don't know those gripes, but again, the way that this movie played all of that stuff out, 100%. If you've watched the movie, you believe that Naru can take down a predator. You watched her. You've seen her skills. You've seen her paying attention. You've seen her learning things. You've seen her apply all of those things. It's just chef's kiss.
She could do it, and the fact that she does manage to do it in the end, like the fact that she does successfully manage to kill the predator, the reason you believe it is because they spent the entire goddamn movie up to that point showing you over and over again how smart she is, how adaptable she is, how capable she is, how quick-witted she is. Like, the movie makes it clear that she is someone capable of doing this. And so when she does it at the end, you're like, yeah, of course. They have made very strong characterization,
Yeah, and we're also seeing her learn things from other people too. That's the other thing. It's not just that she knows all of this stuff. She learns from the translator how to use the pistol. She learns things from Tabe, like she learns things constantly. She learns from her own mistakes. She learns from other people's stories. I like this movie more now than I did before we started recording. Like,
agreed. Like, after this conversation, I respect it so much more, because there were parts in this episode that we're recording right now that, like, you would say something and then my response would be, oh yeah, totally, I agree. But internally I was thinking, holy shit, I didn't even realize that while I was watching the movie. Like, I didn't even notice that until he pointed it out right now. But externally I was like, oh yeah, I thought that was cool too.
But I'm making a lot of these realizations just through talking about it too. So like,
it's
I
like
don't
the
have
movie
notes.
works.
I have no notes written down for this. I have a few names and that's it. Like,
I took a whole bunch of notes because I always take notes while we're watching the movies because I have a really bad memory for this kind of stuff. But like, this movie grabbed me and hooked me so much that even if I didn't take notes, I probably would have been able to have this conversation, because like, you can't see it because we're not on video, but like, I barely consulted my notes during this entire episode.
It's just a good movie. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really good, and it worked even better after we sat down and talked it through. So much more stuff clicked, and I was like, wow, this movie really is like a finely tuned machine. It has a whole lot of moving parts, but they all work in concert with each other somehow. Phenomenal stuff.
Great movie.
A+.
I might watch it again, honestly. Like,
I probably will too.
I haven't watched the Comanche dub. I'm probably gonna check that out. You should watch the English version. And we'll do another episode on this next week.
And see how our perspectives have shifted.
Come back next week. I fucking hate this movie. No. Never. I don't think I ever could. This movie's great. But
it rules.
I got to get this bad boy edited and uploaded while the getting's good. Danny over there at Next Issue already scooped us with a YouTube review. So
that's fine. It happens.
Kenny, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter. My handle is at CYHOBBEZ. As I've mentioned before, I primarily post about stuff I've been playing or watching. I actually just last night posted about how I was watching Prey. I have been recently playing through Control on the PS5. I just beat the second piece of DLC. Nice. And now I've been posting about how I'm going through and cleaning up all of the trophies so I can get a platinum for it on the PS5 version, just like I did with the PS4 version when it first came out.
Nice.
What about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Final Neal and on Instagram at Final Neal Retro, and check out my other podcast all about Mortal Kombat, movies, TV shows, comic books, anything but the games at mkpodquest.com. Kenny, where can people find our show on the internet?
Our Instagram is Crew Expendable Pod. Our website is crewexpendable.net. And our Twitter is at Crew Expendapod.
Got anything fun to take us out? Got an outro for us prepared?
I do not have an outro prepared, although I did happen to open up Twitter by accident, and I saw, going back to a brief conversation we were having just a little bit ago, somebody posted a tweet that said, "The embarrassment of being a predator and getting straight up owned by a low-level creature on a planet you're hunting on. Taken out by an absolute scrub." And then someone I follow quote tweeted this and said, "The movie sounds good, but at the same time, how are the Predators actually doing exactly? They've actually got a terrible batting average against humans, IMHO." And I'm like, exactly. That's precisely our point.
Taken out by a scrub. Somebody didn't watch this movie.
Yeah, clearly not, because she is absolutely not a scrub. She kicks a whole lot of ass in this movie.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see Dan Trachtenberg in this style tackle a Tomb Raider movie.
Ah, man, that would be so much fun.
That would be cool. Maybe someday.
That would be cool.
We'll be back to talk Alien, I think, next week. So until then,
stay frosty.